Hey everybody, my name is Shamananda, and I'm here with Mr. John Atkinson today.
Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
John!
Super excited to be here, you guys, here on the Deep Dive podcast with Shamananda and John. This is, a series of episodes where we get to support the collective on deep discussions. And we're looking forward to the many topics going over for you guys to expand your knowledge and your growth. And also down the road, have some incredible guests. So, super excited to be here, Guru, and I can't wait.
Oh my god, it's always so much fun doing these lives with you, and I'm so glad we're doing this on my one channel that we haven't done any lives on, which is something we're going to do on a weekly basis now. So very excited about that. So you guys can count on us to show up at the same time every week to give you whatever you need. And I hope that you will support us by letting us know the types of things you want us to talk about as well, because we're here for you and we want to support whatever burning questions that you might have. So please do support us with letting us know how we can help you. All right. John, I'm going to let you take it away because I know that you have an agenda for today's podcast, and I'm really excited to see what it is.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, just we're going to do some introductions, you guys, a little bit about ourselves, how we came to this present moment now. And so, Guru, if you want to start in terms of how this came about and, what is your background in serving the collective and what are you currently up to and looking forward to with serving the collective currently?
Oh, wow. Well, let's see. Well, as you know, my name is Shamananda. I've been working as a master shaman for the last about maybe close to I want to say close to 20 years, but I'm going to say 15. And I've been seeing people privately in practice. I travel the world to support people with their stuff meaning it could be anything from physical, emotional, spiritual, or mental issues. So, and it really does fall under that umbrella of a very wide berth of categories. So sometimes it's difficult to define me for that reason because I heal the four bodies. So, so if let's say people will have a chronic illness of some kind and they want support, they might come in, or I might fly out to see them, or and that might be an illness like it could be cancer, it could be some sort of autoimmune disease, or they might have a physical impairment of some kind. That's pretty common. Maybe it's a knee injury or a lifelong injury of some kind, or you know, it could be post-COVID symptoms, long COVID that they can't get rid of, just as an example, or different things with thyroid. I mean, really, the list is very long, and it would take all the podcast time for me to explain it all. So I'm just going to move on to the next category here, just to give you an idea. Then we have spiritual issues where people feel like they have something that's attached to them or connected to them, where they feel very limited in how they're able to function. And sometimes it's not that, and sometimes it's hey, I've had a spiritual awakening and I have no idea what to do now. And then other times it might have something to do with just, I think my house is haunted, or I think there's something in my house. It's There's a lot, though. There's a lot. Some people want guidance. Some people want to become a greater version of themselves. And I teach a lot of students how to continue to grow towards enlightenment. So that's part of my job. And I do a lot of work with them. It's very, it's pretty extensive what I do with them. And then just there's mental and emotional issues. So people sometimes are recovering from trauma, and other times they actually have a mental illness, and they want support. I've seen people with all kinds of mental illness coming through. It could be bipolar, schizophrenia, you know, PMDD. It just goes on and on. So just depending, and there's a lot of people that always have a slight, just a little bit of each of those, and they're trying to deal with it the best that they can, and they want extra support, or maybe the meds aren't completely working for them, and maybe they want to get off meds. I mean, it just it really does change from person to person because everyone here is different. So I do that, and then at the moment, because you asked, I'm working on a mastermind, a course, an online course that is very large, very very large when it comes to spiritual and emotional intelligence and enlightenment training and tools to actually kick off a very comprehensive healing practice, next level healing practice, where it's a college level course where there's a lot of information. It's solid information because a lot of people don't really know how to go about. They don't. They might have a gift of, hey, I touch you and you feel better, but they don't really understand who they are as a spiritual being, what the practices are, what the history is, the different types of applications that actually work, and also what is real and what isn't. So, because there's a lot of illusion within my genre that I'm trying to cut through the fat here so that people actually understand what people can, what is feasible, what applications actually work and what don't. So that's part of what that's all about. Plus, along with that course, we're adding a business marketing element with all of the new business and marketing information that's current, and we plan to keep it current for the duration of the course, which we expect to keep up for a very long time. So people will know exactly how to market, exactly how to actually reach their tribe and their people. And once they do all that, I mean, it's just basically we're trying to revolutionize what this type of practice can do for people. Because there's a lot of people out there trying to make it work, and they're not very educated, and they're ruining lives. They're ruining lives, but it's not just that. A lot of these people want more education. They don't know where to go because there's nothing feasible out there that can really support them. So just trying to create that and teach people how to scale to 6 to 7 figures so that they can actually have a decent life, have more time for themselves and their family, and to do the things that they love, and still can support the collective, and love and do what their soul's purpose is. So that was a lot. So I'm going to give it back to you, John, and see if I missed anything.
I love that so much, Guru. And I think you said it beautifully in terms of what you're doing to serve the collective and why you're here. And I can't wait for that mastermind to come out just to really embody what you do on a daily basis. And then that legacy part, and sharing that part with the collective and just your background. And just super blessed and fortunate to share this space, share this podcast with you. And obviously learn from you, grow and expand, and lean into my growth as you've been such a big part of my life in a short amount of time, but always been there. So yeah, a little bit about myself, you guys, is I would say, self development was always in my background. I have a sporting background in soccer, and so I was always aware of the physical and mental aspect of life and pushing yourself and really expanding that part of my life. And I got up to a professional level with soccer and got many experiences, domestically here, and also played a few times in Europe on like summer tours and things of that nature. And so I'm always used to the four bodies in terms of the first two steps, or first three. So the physical, mental, and emotional. And that missing link for me was the spiritual. I give a lot of credit to my parents. My upbringing and background was being born and raised Catholic. And so the roots of my roots go deep with my family in terms of creating a spiritual practice, creating time for self. And I always attribute that to my mom and my dad. And my dad taught me a lot about, the Native Americans growing up and their connection with the land. And so I've always come full circle, especially now in the world we live in, is the disconnect from self and the disconnect from our land. Is, we're so disconnected from earth, the animals, the plants, everything. We're all connected. And so that's always played in the back of my mind. So with my development um, in this 3D, is it's gotten fast paced. As I got, about 10 years ago, I lost one of my major mentors, which he was a psychiatrist high up in our government, and was actually uh, stationed over in West Africa as State Department. And he had a thing, or his practice, or what he um, was all about as a psychiatrist, was intense short-term dynamic therapy. And so at that time, therapy in this world wasn't really accepted. It's still, that's why we love this podcast, is, getting those topics out there to say, to show that you guys aren't alone. You're not, experiencing anything out of the ordinary. But we're in this together. And so I learned a lot from him, and then he passed. It will be 10 years in December. And before that, I lost my grandpa. And so that really drove my development at that time. I hadn't done any self-development in terms of going to see anybody, really looking inward as a journey. And so that really woke me up to doing this intense short-term dynamic therapy, to really look at the physical, look at the emotional, look at the mental. And it really helped me. And so as I progressed, I got out in the world, in the collective, and I've always loved traveling. And so I got to travel in 2018, and that really opened my paradigm. And that was one of my major awakenings, probably the main one, when I was in the eastern part of the world, in Asia, in 10 different countries. And so I've always loved, cultures, different religions, different you know foods, different mindsets around life. And I've always come back to, and getting to learn under Guru, is it always comes back to the four bodies, you guys. What are we doing to nourish our physical? What are we doing to, push and learn about our mental and emotional? And what are we really doing to attain our spiritual higher self, and what aligns with that? And so after that trip, it really opened me up to, my spiritual body. And it really brought me back to my roots of past lives in these areas. And I always ask people, why do they like traveling to Europe or South America? Or, you have that feeling of home when you visit a place. It's more than likely you've had a past life there, and we could get on that topic at a later time. But you gravitate towards the culture, you gravitate towards so many things in that area that you visited. So I love Asia. I love so many different cultures, different backgrounds, different ways of thinking. And so my journey, and we call life journey, and there's never a destination. My journey really pivoted when I met Guru, and this was in 2020, when the world shut down. And I always say to people, God is always doing whispers. So there's always God whispers on a daily basis, and whispers are little symbols, little signs along your path. Think of your life as a road, and you might see all these symbols, and people coming up to you, go try this out, connect with this person. And so I actually met someone, and they were like, you got to go see Shamananda. And I just was like, okay, like I didn't know much. I was like, all right. And we got connected and started to do some incredible work. And I'm always grateful for you, Guru, because of the amount of speed in a short amount of time navigating the four bodies, really honing in on my physical body. I've been in the food industry for over 10 years, and that takes a toll on your body, especially just supporting the collective and being there. Sometimes not as a soundboard, just as a place where people go and like I say throw up on you, in terms of their life, their emotions, all get played out in their experience through the store. And so at that time, 2020, it was Madhouse, and it was a beautiful, beautiful gift, to get to receive you and just be able to work with you. And so navigating through that really broke me through a lot of ego things, a lot of self doubt, a lot of, I would say, a lot of things that I was scared about my own light and sharing that with the collective. And so once I broke past that, uh, I do own a business. I own a global water business, and that really gave me the tools working with Shamananda to break free and to go all in my business. And so I've been doing that as well, and gratefully too have been rekindled with the the grocery industry recently last year. And so with both of them, I get the freedom, to serve the collective, and also the freedom to create. And I think that's so important. And the creation mode was really a byproduct of the work I've been doing, the practices, because I was so fearful of what I wanted to create, and I really didn't know what I wanted to create. And so working with you, just really grateful to, go through those moments, go through those surrendering moments to catapult myself and to show others too. And this is why we're on here too, is to show others is you're not alone, and to inspire others to dig deep into your self development. So that's the short version. As you said, Guru, I could go and expand. But let's talk about, the foundation here. And we keep saying it is the four bodies. So the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What does that truly mean in terms of some of the clients you see? What does that mean for the collective? And how can someone, know that they're growing through that tangibly?
Hmm, really good questions. I guess if you've never heard the term the four bodies before in spirituality, we're starting with this just so you guys know. It's because it's really the foundation of everything. If you can grasp this, then everything else will be really simple, or at least conceivably so. So basically, we're comprised of the four bodies, right? So that's the mental, the emotional, and yes, the mental and emotional are different. And then we have the spiritual, and then we have the physical body. Now, if we're looking at it from a standpoint of how it shows up in our body, as an example, in our chakra systems, if we're looking at the root chakra, we're talking about the physical body and those types of manifestations. And as you get into the stomach and into the chest, you're talking more about the mental and emotional bodies. And then as you're getting up into these chakras up here, we're getting more into the spiritual body. And that's not an accident. It's part, like, we start with the root, and then on top of the root we grow our understanding about who we are as beings, and then we finally get here at the end of the day. So with the physical, it's the most tangible and the most dense. And for humans, for us, it makes the most sense that we know that it's real because we can smell it, we can taste it, and we can feel it. And so most of the attention has been put on that as far as humanity is concerned, and all the studies and all of the research and all of the promotions and all of the marketing and everything. It's the biggest aspect, the biggest body that is paid attention to, because us as humans feel like it is the most important, because we can use all of our senses, is the physical body. Now, moving on from that, we go into the mental and emotional body. Now, the mental and emotional body is still paid attention to in our society, but it doesn't have the same value and importance. And it's actually critiqued more. And there's a lot of different ways for that. So, as an example, if a person with a mental illness walks into a room and a person who is using a cane walks into a room, people are going to feel less a certain way about the person with the cane than they will with the person with the mental illness. Now, a part of this has to do with the acceptance of our different bodies and the understanding of such, but also it has to do with our ancestry and how our ancestors saw these types of problems and the types of feelings that it brings up in us through our bloodline to understand what we should do to keep ourselves safe. Because back in the day, a mental illness could mean that somebody in your tribe could die. You could die, your family member could die, your baby could die because some guy decided, or didn't decide, but he, something happened to him. And those tribe members were killed very quickly because everyone needed to stay exactly the same so that everyone felt safe. So it was the same if there was body makeup involved and it was more of a tribesman like that, same makeup, very little deviation, same movements, same actions. It needed to be very, don't worry, this is the way we're supposed to act, and so we're going to do this so that everyone knows that we're not, because there was that danger of being killed. So, but I regress. So we go back into, so the mental and emotional body in society, there isn't as much, there's just not as much research. There's not as much support as far as, how to heal those types of issues as the physical body. It exists, of course, obviously, in many different types of ways, but it's just not as valued if you really look at how much it exists for each. So then we go into the spiritual body, which is the least tangible of all of them, and ironically, it's the most important because that's who you are. So you got to get up here in the chakra system. You got to come all the way up from the root and build until you get here, so that you can know who you are as a being, because you're not your body, and you're not your spirit. Your mental or emotional state. You're the spirit. And all of these bodies operate independently, interchangeably, but independently of each other. So as an example, your physical body is going to want different things from what your mental or emotional body might want. So let's say, and I gave this example earlier about somebody, let's say you want ice cream, but your physical body is allergic to it, and it makes it sick, and it's not the healthiest food. But all you want to do is lay in bed all day and eat ice cream and binge Netflix or something like that. Now, I think we've all done that at least once in our lives. Okay, so, but it doesn't mean that's what the physical body wants at that time. The physical body might want to be moved. It might want to exercise. It might want the really healthy food. It might want to go through a detox. Who knows? But it probably doesn't want the ice cream and laying around and not moving at all. It probably, unless you're sick and you get to rest, because we get to do that. But I hope you understand what I'm saying here. So each of the bodies are wanting different things. And each of the bodies get to be considered when going into an issue and trying to heal issues as well, because each of those bodies will give a different answer as far as how you're going to heal. So, as an example, if you're going through a problem with your family or, at work, and you've created, let's say, I gotta make up something. Let's say that your boss is telling you that you're coming across in a way that isn't okay with the customers. So there is going to be a solution in each of the bodies for you. You get to look at each of the bodies and come up with that solution. So mentally, maybe you're just not aware of your output, and emotionally, maybe you're just not stable, and you get to figure out how to and why this is happening to you. These are just really brief, small examples. Physically, maybe there's something wrong. I mean, maybe you're not getting enough rest. Maybe you don't feel well. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you're exhausted. Who knows? And then spiritually, there might not be enough connection to that part of your highest self that in practice, in meditative practice, or and maybe you're just feeling drained and replete from that. So I hope that makes sense. So those are a couple of things that I can touch on, and elaborate on. But I'm going to pass it over to you, John, and let you, because I'm sure you have things to say and questions. And I've been talking for a long time.
I love that. And the simplicity of how you explain it, I think what stands out too is like physical, that our society gets so caught up on the seven senses of what in the physical form we can really change. And then now that paradigm has gone into the emotional and mental, but it's really, like you said, as we journey through the chakras and journey up, how can we connect with our higher self, you guys? And so with that, you're going to learn some tools from us. What would you say, Guru, in the simplest form, if someone's tuning in right now, is like, what are some of the different practices? Like, I know for physical, you know, what comes to mind is physical exercise. What are we eating? Um, what are some of the things we're doing for rest, like sleep, like you said, hydration, all these different things that really nourish our physical. The mental and emotional is, when the going gets tough, are we leaning into our growth? Are we um, learning from a zoomed out perspective? I think you've always shown me that and challenged me like, hey, zoom out a little bit. Maybe what you're seeing is not what you're seeing in the emotional and mental. Obviously, it goes deeper than that, and I want you to share a little bit more. And then in terms of the spiritual, what are some of the tools people can use as an exercise to connect, because as you and I know, each one's separate. So I think sometimes people might get confused on like, well, I'm doing this, why isn't I'm having breakthrough in my mental and emotional, yet it's all embodied into us, right? So just share a little bit in terms of what are some of the practices some of our viewers can do on all four bodies to create a new habit. It doesn't have to be many, just maybe a few, and then how they can connect to that spiritual body more.
These are good questions. I would say that because each issue would be so germane to what the person is going to. The best way that I could quantify it and generalize it would be through purification. So, if you are to take the stance of purifying all the four bodies, then there would be a regimen that you could do for each of them that would make sense. So with the physical body, starting there, and we'll start at the densest form of creation, which is the physical, and then we'll work our way up. Purification can involve eating foods that are simple ingredient foods that are purified, because in this country, in America, we have a lot of toxins in our foods, and our food is not that great here as far as health, and so we get to really pay attention to labels and things like that. So part of it is being very mindful about what types of foods you're putting into your body, and being reasonable with how you're doing that. And so listening to your body, knowing what it wants, knowing what the body wants, not knowing what the mental or emotional body wants with food, but what the physical body wants with food is key. And learning about your body and its chemistry, and what are the things that it really needs. And you can do that with your doctor. You can do that through blood work, finding out what you're low in, what you're high in, those types of things. And you can do that with different types of spiritual practitioners as well. They might have an idea, as far as intuitively, but if we're going more scientific, then I would definitely do blood tests and things like that, just to find out where you're at. just to make sure that you're getting exactly what you need, because you'll know where all your vitamins are at. You'll know where all your levels are at. And, and what you get to do to make sure that you're putting those in your body in a healthy way. Other types of physical purification include, detoxing. So there's a lot. We collect a lot of heavy metals in our body, and it can create a lot of problems as far as cognitive function. It can create a lot of problems in the way we move our bodies, being lethargic. So and it can make you sick. There's a lot of things about it that can make you sick. So those types of toxins, parasites are a big one. So doing a parasite cleanse is also a good idea. A liver detox, so that you can feel like you're not like just that feeling of feeling toxic and kind of moving through life like that. It might be your liver, because your liver can make you feel that way, right? And so on and so forth. So could go on for a long time in that too, but I'm going to condense again. It's not an exhaustive list, but I get to keep going. So there is making sure you have the right water inside of your body. It's extremely important. I know that John has dedicated a decent portion of his life to make sure that people are educated and know the value and importance of putting the right type of water in your body. You're almost 70% water in your body, and if you're putting in the wrong stuff, you can get really sick. So that is so important. One of the more important purifications that you can do for the physical body. And then, of course, exercise, and making sure that everything's in optimum health. Also decluttering your home, your car, your environment. That's really important. That also goes into the mental body, though, so that's also a mental body detox a little bit. So because it really does support with that. But and it does support with all the bodies, actually. But just so that we're clear, it does really support with the physical too, because the density around the physical body, you notice it. You can feel it. But yeah, it more affects the mind, I think, than the physical body. But still, I still add it in the physical body category. Let's see. So if we're moving on to the mental and emotional, then we're talking about, the purification of, noticing what mental types of patterns are working for you and what aren't. So if you get into a fight with a person all the time, as an example, the very first thing, as an example, might be you feel triggered, and then you get quiet, and then you burst out in anger and yell at them, and then you call them names, and then you walk away, and then you come back and you apologize. Maybe that's your pattern. I mean, all the patterns are different. It just is an example of what I'm talking about. The idea is to study the patterns that aren't working, and before you get to step 2, you do something different with step 1, and you change your pattern. You actually think about the pattern, you map out what you used to do, and then you start mapping out what you want to do, what's going to be more effective. And you study that pattern, and once that pattern comes up again, you're like, I'm going to make sure that I do this new thing now and see if that works better for me. So that's an example of mental purification. And if we're going into emotional, it's about writing down all your feelings. It's about and triggers and getting the deep work done. Just working through your stuff and healing that, and forgiving yourself and forgiving others, and remembering, things like, hey, I can't sit here and be jealous of people, or project my anger, or blame everyone else for my life. I get to be accountable for this. And, going through all of that work. And I mean, that's such a big subject. It's hard to even summarize, but I get to leave it somewhere, so I'm going to leave it there. And then, of course, we go into the spiritual body, and that type of purification could mean getting rid of the things that are in your auric fields, and the different types of blockages you might have in your body that might have been created spiritually through different types of emotional issues and problems that you've experienced in your life that you placed in your body, because it happens. It happens. And then people get all of these physical issues, they get sick, and it creates a lot of problems. So that type of spiritual purification really gets to happen. And if you can do that, you're not going to have a lot of issues in your life in that way. You're going to feel really good a lot of the time. But you got to balance out all four the best you can. So hopefully that supports with your question, John.
Totally. I love that. And also, just some of the things that stood out and that have supported me was how you brought up decluttering our home, declutter, and I think of decluttering our car, decluttering our workspace. And for the viewers tuning in today or, down the road is try it, try just, I think sometimes I know for myself, I want you to say something about it too, Guru. Is sometimes when we have clutter, it could be overwhelming. It's like, where do I start? Where do I begin? And it just pick an area of your home, of your room, of your bathroom, of your office, and just set a timer like, hey, I'm going to do 30 minutes of decluttering. And like you said, Guru, it really helps on all four bodies. You really just feel purified. I recently last week purged like three of my rooms, my bedroom, my office, and the bathroom. I'm going to purge more today of my car. Um, it's not it's not like crazy clutter, but I just like to. It's like that feeling of being cleaned, you guys. You know how you feel good after a shower or putting on clothes that have just been washed. Like it just really feels good and nourishing. And then I liked how you brought up journaling. I think it's so overlooked to take the time to write out something that has happened to you today, something that has been on your heart maybe for a few months, maybe this whole year, you're like, dang, like I haven't been able to, focus, or I haven't been able to push through something that has keep coming up. And I loved how you said, just own it, handle it, um, you know, work towards it and see, like you said, what are the triggers? What are the things that are coming up for us in every single moment? There's things, traumas, blockages, like you said, emotions that are disconnecting us from our higher self. And so, as we all work and we work towards self mastery and working on the four bodies, we become more aware of our patterns, more aware of our triggers, more aware of where the work gets to be done. So yeah, Guru, I love that. And then the food or the physical too, like what came to mind when you were explaining like our society with all of the things, it's like there's so many toxins in the food, the water, the drinks. Like I just think of the words nutrient dense. Like what's going to be the most nutrient dense for you? And like what you always say to me, Guru, is like what types of things are we doing in our life that are going to align with our goals, that are going to align with our vision of our future self, and get to work on that now in the present moment. So I love that, Guru. Let's see. Yeah, talk a little bit, with the four bodies and self mastery, because you've helped so many clients over the years, including myself. Self mastery is not a destination, it's definitely a journey. Can you touch on, defining self mastery and how you've come to help people through self mastery in the four bodies?
Absolutely. Well, so self mastery definitely is about mastering the four bodies, but a good part of self mastery has to do with mastering your own psychology. And so, and truly understanding yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself that you can be. So, self mastery really is about a masterful display of handling your scandal as far as how are you going to operate in the optimum in all four of your bodies. So in your physical body, just like through the process of purification, the whole point of the process of purification is to get you into a place of the highest resonance that you can be. And it's the same with the mental and emotional and the spiritual. And the idea of that is that if you bring everything up, if you raise those vibrations up and purify in that way, eventually you're going to reach a higher state of consciousness alone, just from that vibration. And when that higher state happens, you connect to universal consciousness and knowledge in a way that you never could have before. You'll know things that you didn't know before just because you're in alignment with a higher frequency and you can connect to it. It's like the 100th monkey principle in a way, because it's we're connecting to something, but we're also we can connect to ourselves. So if you're not aware of that principle, there was this story about how scientists on an island were studying monkeys, and they were studying how they were, just their behaviors and everything they were doing. And there was this one female monkey that had a sweet potato, and she went to the water and she was washing it, and all the other monkeys were looking around going, what's she doing? And very typically it's monkey see, monkey do. So eventually all the other monkeys started doing the same thing. They would wash their sweet potato in the water before they would eat it. So here comes in the principle. A few islands away, obviously the monkeys are not going to travel from island to island. All right, these monkeys are not, they stay on the island, they live on the island, they have their entire life on the island, and they die on that island. So a few hundred miles away, there's going to be another island that's going to have a bunch of monkeys. So the 100th monkey principle has to do with, or is it the 100th or the 1000th? They would be someone on that other island. One of those monkeys is going to start, like, all at the same time. Those monkeys are going to start washing their sweet potatoes, and no one's going to. It's like, well, how did they know to do that? And why did they all do it at the same time? It doesn't make any sense. But really, it has to do with the fact that we're connected through consciousness, and we're connected in that spiritual way, where universal consciousness plays a role, and our evolution plays a role in that, because all four bodies are really important in understanding who we are as a being. So, and we do that with our own universal consciousness, and we do that with people. So the more that you can raise your consciousness in this lifetime, the more it's going to affect the people around you, because the way you've raised your own vibration is going to raise others. So that's self-mastery is truly about raising your vibration to the point where there's a lot here, but it's about raising your vibration to a certain part, to a certain aspect, as high as you can go, and it supports the collective when you do it. You could be sitting beside somebody at a bus stop and not say a word, and you would support them with bringing them to a higher level because you're at a higher level. It's an auric transference, it's a collective consciousness thing. So self-mastery is almost becoming supernatural, honestly, in a lot of ways. I hope that supports.
So good, Guru. And that kind of hits that theme of, well, why should I do the work, right? And I think with that example, it's exactly why we should be doing the work, dedicating, each day to the four bodies and what we're truly looking at. Let's end on this question: is what do you think is the missing puzzle piece of the global collective in terms of the four bodies? What do you think is like one of the things that stands out that you're like, wow, if collectively we made a choice to, commit to the four bodies, what would that be?
Okay, because you've done a lot of work in this department, I'm curious to see what you've done, and then I'm going to say a few words.
Okay. I love that. So I think for myself, how I view my journey is very connected to the collective, and it's inspiring. And so I don't do things to be inspiring. It's inspiring when people look at people's journey. And so, for example, the examples we've given you guys is really hone in, really take ownership of your physical body. I've done with my sporting background and even in the recent, years, 2 years, last 6 months, this month, investing in your physical, whether that's going to the gym, eating whole foods, getting, like Guru said, is like getting tested. Like, do you have to cut out dairy? Do you have to, there's so many things that we get to do to nourish our physical. And sometimes, and I know I've done it too, is like we have a blind eye to it, right? We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to make that pivot. We don't want to make that change. For me, it's always been sugar, and there's different levels to sugar because sugar is so addicting. And there's actually natural sugars in fruits, right? There's natural sugar in vegetables as well. So but there's also so much in process. So mine was really trying to get away from processed sugar. And uh, recently I've gone through some experiences where I've done a full reset and I'm feeling good and I don't have the mindset. And I loved, Guru, how you said self mastery is mastering your psychology. And I think that's the biggest missing puzzle piece in the collective is how do we master our psyche? How do we master our decisions in the now? And as you've always taught me is, does this decision align with my highest self, my end goal, my challenges that I'm currently having? Does this align with the solution? And I think it goes back to asking ourselves better questions. And so that's kind of my part with the physical, with the mental and emotional is hitting it right, like right in the head is like facing it head on. And so any challenges you're having mentally, emotionally, like, it could be fearful, like you're fearful to get help. Like if you're struggling mentally or mindset wise or in a rut, like reach out, do you have a support system? Do you have community? I think community is one of the biggest missing links in the collective puzzle piece is community. And it's gotten harder, it's the last 2 years have shown that is disconnection from community, disconnection because we get caught up in the details of this person's this or they made that decision or they represent it's like let's get over that BS and really strip down to who we truly are, and that's human beings that we get to be in more of that tribal community as well. So and then the spiritual is making time out of our hustle and bustle days. I know I struggled with this um, in the beginning is like making sure you're making time for you. Your quiet time is necessary. Your quality of life will grow and it expands. And I always say to myself, I owe myself that. You owe you that time of, maybe it's an hour in your favorite place in your home. Maybe it's an hour in nature, but really allocating that time to connect with your highest spiritual self. And so I can go on. There's so many examples, but I think what really honed in when I was listening to you, Guru, is mastering the psychology and mastering what goes into that is mastering our choices. Is it, you've always challenged me, John, is it the highest choice that I could choose right now that's going to align myself with my goals, with where I want to be? Um, how I want to feel on all terms. So that's kind of what I think is the missing link or puzzle piece is mastering your psychology, is mastering your psychology. And what we've talked about, what Guru you've brought up beautifully is how are you purifying yourself? And I think so many times people think of the word like purify, like, oh, like what does that really mean? Is that extreme? No, it's how do we get to be in our natural state when we were born here, right? We were born here with nothing, naked as a baby with so many things, and we've grown into these patterns, these stories, this lifestyle. Um, and sometimes majority of the time is it's deprogramming what we've learned, how we're living to purify, to get back to a state of origin, to get back to that state of being. And so that's what I think is the missing link through my experiences and through your teachings as well, Guru.
Absolutely. No, you said it very well. It is in describing your your aspect of purification in that way makes a lot of sense, and I think people will uh, relate to that because it's people will listen to and for some maybe people will listen to this and maybe it'll be over their heads. I don't know, but for others maybe they'll understand. At least I'm hoping that through this process and through this podcast we can support people in understanding what the heck we're talking about. So but as far as the the mastering your own personal psychology is truly the key here because that's the biggest contender that you have because you created an ego, right? And this ego has its own ideas of what it should and shouldn't do, and it has all these limiting beliefs. And the ego creation is actually insane because it contradicts itself all the time. There's parts of it that work against you and work for you, and it's not it thinks it knows everything and it doesn't know anything. Like it lives in illusion a lot of the time. So it's fighting through that and reparenting it until you understand who you are as a divine being is the key. So it's really interesting process because you really just keep refining your ego self until it sees eye to eye with who you are as a divine being. And then you basically look each other in the eye and realize you were always the same being to begin with. And that's when the veil drops and you begin to really see who you are in this lifetime. You're not going to know who you are until you drop all of these limiting beliefs and you drop all the pain and the suffering that you have in your body and your consciousness, because that's not who you actually are in your purest form. So you're going to believe a lot of illusion and stories separate from who you are in in that being. And the idea is to get back to that place, and that's self-mastery. And it's a long journey for a lot of people. But if you keep it simple and you really surrender, then you can do it very quickly. But not everyone is willing to do that, because as soon as they get confronted with something that's painful, they say, "Nah, I don't want to do that. It hurts too much. I can't look at that. I can't think about that. I can't go through this process of whatever aspect is bothering you the most." So, but it's your birthright, it's your destiny. You should be able to dive in there and grab onto it like a bull by its horns and go, "Yeah, it's mine, I got it." And you'll feel so different, because you will be different, but you'll be able to actually accomplish everything that you were meant to accomplish in this lifetime. If you do it, you'll bring up the collective consciousness and will bring us, our entire planet, into a state of greater peace and understanding, where we're not doing all these really messed up toxic things to each other all the time. It happens everywhere. And aren't you tired of it? I know I am. So this is why I do what I do. I'm hoping that, just through these absolutely beautiful, I'm hoping that you'll find them beautiful. I find them beautiful. These teachings that, you can take home and you can do something with, and maybe even if it just sets off one little thing for you and it changes one thing in a positive way, then I've done my job. I'm hoping I can do more, but what else can we do? So I'll take it. If it's just one thing, I'll take it.
Love that so much, Guru. And some of the key takeaways, you guys, on what we shared with, the four bodies, just make a decision on how you want to live, where you're going, what are some of your goals. We're headed into the end of this year. You all started the year with, maybe some vigor, maybe some big goals and dreams, and maybe some of you didn't even, realize what this could be stirring up for you. And so just commit to your growth, lean into it. Like Guru said, sometimes it's super messy. Majority of the time it's uncomfortable. It's like, pulling out off a scab is some of those triggers, but commit to the four bodies. And this month, as we start a fresh month, and into fall season, is just commit to one little pivot, right? One little pivot each day is going to get you, where you want to be, and set out and, show a difference in yourself to inspire other people. Maybe you want to inspire your partner. Maybe you want to inspire your friends, your family. I always think too, and Guru always pointed this out, is people are always watching you, and you're more of a higher influence than you think on the collective consciousness through your actions. And we just went over some great tools to utilize. If you just get to utilize one, we are grateful, and we're just excited to have this podcast, the Deep Dive Podcast. And just let us know, Guru, what's a way people can connect with you more if you're in the Orange County area and you want to, you know, possibly do a session or just learn more about what Shamananda is doing in the community locally here. Also virtually, I know you've done some virtual things, and then also I know you shared early on the mastermind's almost complete. So take it away.
Oh wow, wow, what a setup! Woo, that's exciting. Thank you so much. I counsel people all over the world. So if you're in New Zealand or something like that and you want to talk to me, we can set up a Zoom call. It's not a problem. Just reach out to me through YouTube through this interface and send me a message and we'll get the conversation started and I can send you links and we can definitely do that. I'd be excited to support you in any way that I can. So I think that for now that's the best thing to do. You can just reach out, leave a message, leave a comment, and I'll read it and we'll get started. You know, and if you're in OC, it's the same thing. If you're going to be traveling through, I've been happy, and I also do, like I said before, I do travel to other people. I mean, it's not it costs money, so keep that in mind. But I do that. So if you're so inclined and you're wanting support in that way, just let me know and I can support. What else? What else? What else? Well, I think that's all I got. But I appreciate you all and I love you and I'm so grateful that we had this time together and I hope that we can continue to do so on a regular basis. So please make our Wednesdays a regular thing so we can hang out together and get to know each other.
Love you all, and thanks for tuning in to episode 1. Like Guru said, we'll be here every Wednesday at noon Pacific time. If all we ask, we don't do any commercials or anything crazy on here on this channel. All we ask is if this touched your heart, is you share it with someone that you truly love. Share it with someone that might need to hear some of these messages today. Like Guru said, comment below if you're struggling, or maybe you're at a high point in your life right now. Is just share something, your biggest takeaway. I always like to ask that question: what was your biggest takeaway from episode 1? So super grateful to share this space with you, Guru. Thank you so much, and see you all next week.
Bye, everybody.